Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is a Saturday night, April the 18th, 2015, just after tax day here in the U.S. Well, tax day was the 15th, so quite a few days after that. I hope everyone's had an excellent week. I have been having a very good week myself here. I know at the end of during the last episode, I said I was going to go through my old Kickstarter things that I've backed and try to give an update on things and stuff, and then I never got to it. So we are going to get to that this episode, mostly because I have trolled high and low. I have trolled high and low for news, and I the last couple of weeks, pet peeve here. Last couple of weeks, going on the various video gaming news sites, Polygon, your Kotakus, your VG247s, your various other places, and yeah, it seems like they want to do anything but talk about video games lately. It's like, did you hear about the Star Wars trailer? Did you hear about the Deadpool thing? Did you hear about the what's the other one that they keep being on about, the TV show, Daredevil? Yeah, that's the TV show. And okay, I get it, guys. I get it. We're all geeks. They're things that geeks like. I like them too. But there are sites for those things. When I'm in an RSS feed and I'm looking for video gaming stuff, I'm kind of looking for video gaming stuff. That's why I'm doing it from an RSS feed, not from your crappy website. So perhaps you should focus your RSS feeds a little bit better. And especially, it's especially confusing when you click on something from Kotaku and they direct you to a different Gawker site like Deadspin or something, and you read the article like, yeah, that was a weird article. Why was that on Kotaku? And then you look at the comments, you're like, wow, what's up with these comments? We're on a gaming site, and then you realize that you're not. You're on Deadspin or something. Like, okay, that's that's bad. I did not want to be here. I did not consent to this. Oh man, but that's just me. That's me being an old man and yelling at the kids to get off his lawn, I think. But there are before we get into the old Kickstarter things that I was talking about before, or want to talk about, there are a few nuggets of news that I was able to pull out. One is that obviously Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. I talked about this last week a little bit. Some more details have come out, namely, I'll link you to the Eurogamer article on this, but one of the biggest details that has come out so far is that the game is going to be completely ghostable, which means you can go through the entire game and not kill any of the bosses if you so desire. And I learned something during this that I did not know going into my Deus Ex Human Revolution playthrough, that apparently they ran low on time, Eidos Montreal that is, and farmed out all the boss battles to another company, which is why the boss battles were a little bit jarring. And honestly, while I was playing the game, I did kind of feel like the boss battles were a little jarring, because I'm like, something's not quite on here. But it wasn't enough that it pulled me out of the experience. It was just kind of odd. It was something I noted, but I never really talked about. And it turns out that, that they were done by a completely different company, and they were a sore thumb in a stack of dollar bills. I think that's how that saying goes, or something like that. So what they're doing now is that it's all done in-house. They've set aside time for the boss battles and everything else. They're going to do everything in-house, and every boss battle is going to be You don't have to kill them if you don't want to, which is really cool because there's a lot of people who go through the effort to really, to never set off any alarms, never kill anybody, do a completely pacifist run. I've seen a couple of I've seen speed runs that were completely pacifist runs for the original Deus Ex and stuff. And it's really cool. And there's actually some for Human Revolution too, even though they have to put a little asterisk next to it and say like, well, you got to kill the bosses, but you only kill the necessary people. Just like for the original Deus Ex, you only kill the necessary people. Although, I think the only, technically the only boss you had to kill in the original Deus Ex was Anna Navarra, but it was later found that there was a way you could do it. There's a way you could glitch out the game to where you didn't have to kill her at all. You did something that made her not show up in that cutscene or something like that, and then you're able to just go through without killing anybody. I forget exactly how they did it, but it's I remember hearing about that, and I might be remembering wrong because my memory is what it is. But I'm pretty sure that there was a way you could do it completely passively through the whole thing. I don't know about the final boss battle, the Bob what was that character's name? Bob Sanders or something like that. Bob Sanders maybe? Yeah, something like that. Bob Page, that's what it is. It came back to me because I'm remembering I was reading some things about Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Like somebody had one of these sites had a dig in where they said, okay, well, here's where we think the story is going to go. And I don't know if they actually know the story details or not, or if they were just theorizing on things. But they were talking about in that article that I read, and I don't have the link to it, so unfortunately I can't link you to it. But in that article that I was reading, they were talking about how we're now, Mankind Divided, Deus Ex Mankind Divided is supposed to take place 2 years after the events of Human Revolution. They're theorizing that Jensen, basically that the fourth ending, the one that I did, where Jensen destroys the facility without telling anybody on the outside world what happened, is sort of the one that's going to be canon, which I kind of hope it does, because that sort of made the most sense as far as an ending concern was going. Because these other things like the Illuminati and all those various other organizations, you're not going to take them down. So the best thing he could have done was just destroy that facility. But it sounds like that might possibly be the canon. That's the word I'm looking for, and that this will take place 2 years after Human Revolution, the events of Human Revolution, and because of that, we're getting close or drawing the time when the protagonists from the original Deus Ex were born and being raised. So we're talking about J.C. Denton and his brother, which I forget his brother's name, honestly, but it's another Denton, obviously. They are, and they made a good point in this that I didn't really pick up on in the game, and this is why you need people to like sort of critically analyze games, because sometimes I just don't pick up on things. I really like to see other people's opinions on things. But apparently, Deus Ex Human Revolution, a lot of the augmentations in there are mechanical augs, which, you could see during the progression of the game. Jensen's head is clearly some sort of ceramic thing. And in the original Deus Ex, there were, and I remembered this after this person pointed it out, there was sort of strife between J.C. Denton, his brother, and the other augmented soldiers in UNATCO, because the other augmented soldiers in UNATCO had, now when I was playing the game, I thought they just had like older augmentations, and that's why they were kind of pissed off. But it really comes down to they had mechanical augmentations, whereas JC and his brother had nano augmentations, which the game actually mentions, but I never put the two together. So what it really comes down to is that you're getting to a nice, interesting point where we're trying to set up the events for the original Deus Ex in Deus Ex Mankind Divided, where, you know, Jensen is still one of the old school models, right? He's the mechanical augmentation guy, whereas, you know, JC and his brother will be the nano-augs, which look closer to humans, although even in the original Deus Ex they didn't look fully human. They still had some mechanical augmentations, but for the most part they were nano augments that we saw, and so they looked the most human, and you couldn't really tell that they were augmented, whereas in the realm of Deus Ex Human Revolution and then Mankind Divided, you can really tell when somebody's augmented because it's all mechanical. They don't look human. You know, there's parts of them that don't look human. So that was kind of an interesting point that they pulled out, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That we're setting up that whole realm of that whole storyline going forward. So I'm really excited. I probably will end up killing bosses and stuff because I don't usually do a pacifist run. Although, some people, for the pacifist run, it's like, oh, you're not going to shoot anybody at all. I tend to, like, knock people out. I tend to shoot people when I feel like it. You know, it's just the way I go. It's the way I roll. I've been trying to do, through my Dishonored run, trying to not kill anybody. With moderate levels of success. I'll be honest, when it comes to Dishonored, when I saw some YouTube videos of Dishonored, and I saw the trailers for it, I was like, this looks kind of nice, but I don't really think it's in my wheelhouse. Now that I'm about, I would say, 3 hours into it now, I can say with utmost certainty that yes, this game is in my wheelhouse. This is my kind of game. Dishonored is my kind of game, because it does remind me a lot of Deus Ex and a lot of Deus Ex Human Revolution, where you can there's multiple paths to do things. There's multiple ways to do things. The thing that gets me even more and this happened in Human Revolution too, is that these types of games, as you're going through the game, and as you're, like, I tend to explore everything I can explore. But as you do that, as you dig further into the game, you're like, oh, here's a vent I could have crawled in and avoided all those guys that I had to kill. Or here's another pathway that would have gotten me around all these guys without even having to, even lift a finger or even having to shoot them or anything, even having to trank them from a long distance. And I'm seeing that a lot in Dishonored too, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. I totally get it now. This is definitely my type of game. So, very happy that I was I was coaxed into. So my arm was twisted slightly into doing Dishonored. I'm glad that it came out that way, because I'm really enjoying that now, very, very much so. But anyway, that's Your Gamer link will take you to what little additional information we have about Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Take a look at that. In addition, we have some information about Valve. Valve is, in order to cut down some of the spam and some of the phishing attempts that have been made on Steam accounts. There's been a long running problem where these like day-old accounts will go in and try to spam you with trades and card trades and all that stuff, and just generally be an annoyance. Valve has now limited those accounts. Any account that has spent less than $5 or has less than $5 in its Steam wallet, and that's $5 US. So they take into account the current currency exchange when they do it. Will be limited from doing certain things on Steam, and I have the list here. So it'll be limited from sending friend invites, opening group chat, voting on greenlight Steam reviews and workshop items, participating in the Steam market, posting frequently in the Steam discussion. So I guess there's going to be like a limit on how many posts they can do. but they'll still be able to post, just not too many at a time, I guess. Gaining Steam profile level, so they'll be locked to level 0, and trading cards. Submitting content on Steam Workshop, posting in an item's Steam Workshop discussions, accessing the Steam Web API, and using browser and mobile chats is what they'll be locked down to. And for most people, that's not even going to be a blip on the radar. Again, $5 is not that big a deal. $5 US is not that big a deal. I think it's mostly for people who, say, buy things in a Humble Bundle that then gives them Steam keys, and so they just register Steam keys, but they don't use Steam for anything else other than just curating that stuff and getting updates. So that might affect them, but I mean, there's so many good deals on Steam. You could just buy something for $5. You know, there's plenty of things out there you can get for $5 and just, you know, have all those restrictions limited if you want to use Steam more than just as an archive and library type of deal. So I'll link you guys to the VG247 article that basically tells you all that, but in a little bit more detail. So those two things down. I also have another topic that's relatively fresh. So we're talking about Star Wars Battlefront. Now, I don't have any specific article on this. This is just my thoughts so far on what I've seen. Now, obviously, a Star Wars trailer went out this week, and it was fantastic. I may have watched it a couple times more than I want to admit to, but it's it's fantastic. If there's one thing I'll say about J.J. Abrams is that he knows how to get nerds to get their jollies on, right? He knows how to get nerds to tune into him. That said, hopefully he doesn't do what he did in Star Trek with the new his shot at Star Wars. Namely, do something that's just make the characters do weird things, have plot holes that you can drive a starship through, and things like that. Hopefully he avoids most of that stuff. I'm a little bit concerned because the one actor, the black guy, and I apologize, I didn't look up his name. I should have before I did this, but I'm kind of worried about him a little bit because every trailer he's been in so far, every shot we see of him is like he's either sweating and panting or he's got that really goofy, like, scared face on. And I'm like, I hope they don't Jar Jar Binks that guy. I really hope they don't. I really hope he's got more than just that as far as the the movie goes. And hopefully he does it. Hopefully he's just that got bad trailer chops, hopefully. that's my plea, is that he there's more depth to him than what we saw there in the small trailers that we've gotten. So that said, Star Wars Battlefront, I was really excited for Battlefront. I really was, and now we're getting some more information about it, and the more information we get, the more the less excited I actually am about it. It looks like, if I were to put my cynical hat on, which looks like a fedora, in case you're wondering, if I were to put my cynical hat on, I would have to say that EA and DICE appear to be trying to ride the coattails of the movie, and they're trying to get this game out before the movie, or in line with the movie. The movie's coming out in December. This game, I believe, is slated for November, maybe. And I think they're trying very desperately to ride the coattails of the movie because, licensing and all that stuff. And that may be a detriment. Generally speaking, in history, that's generally been a detriment to the overall quality of a game. And the reason I say that is, it looks like, what makes me have that assessment, I should say, is that there's no campaign. There's no single player campaign in this game. There's a bunch of single player. There's a bunch of missions that you can run that are single player. Famous battles that sort of tell the story or lead up to the story of the new movie. But no overarching campaign from what I've read. That has me bummed out, because that means the full emphasis of the game is multiplayer. And honestly, I don't feel like I need the multiplayer in that game. As much as I want to play, as much as I like sci-fi, as much as I like Star Wars, I probably will do without if that's all the game has in store for me, because I don't see the point of doing just a multiplayer Star Wars game when you've got Star Wars games out there that are not only multiplayer but excellent stories to them. You know what I mean? Like, they have a perfect opportunity here to do it. They have a perfect opportunity to go Wolfenstein on this thing, Wolfenstein: The New Order on this thing, right? And just have a fantastic story and set it in the Star Wars universe leading up to or including the new movie. But that would probably take them too long, and so they want to get this out while the movie's still relevant, or ideally before the movie goes out, because they're not quite sure whether, if it's going to get critically panned, which I mean, sci-fi movies get critically panned all the time, and that doesn't usually affect their sales, because most of the critics aren't geeks. But, they're playing a numbers game, I would say. And the numbers say, get it out before the movie so that you have some more longevity up past the first month, essentially. Or so you have time to fix all the bugs that you didn't fix before releasing it, before the movie comes out and everybody wants to jump in and go pew pew on somebody's ass. So I are disappoint right now is what my assessment is of that. I don't really think I don't think it's something that I'm gonna. It's definitely not something I'm gonna pre-order. It's definitely not something I'm gonna buy initially, unless they woo me some other way. It's gonna be a wait and see for me, I think, as far as Star Wars Battlefront goes. Sad, very sad. But on a little bit lighter note, I just prior to hitting record, I had this sudden wave come over me, and I don't know if women experience this or not. I know other men have expressed to me that they experience this, but it's that wave. It's that sudden realization, like you kind of glance at a calendar and you have this realization in the back of your head that you've forgotten something, usually an anniversary of some kind. And you're like, oh crap, what did I forget? And you're just searching through your mind like, oh, something is missing here. I must find this before I get in trouble. Well, for me, luckily, for me, it ended up being that I took a look at my YouTube channel, and yes, July, coming up in July 27th to be exact. July 13th is when I started the channel. July 27th is when I first uploaded a video. And the first video I uploaded was Cube World. And I just went back and took a look at it just to see what on there. Apparently 53 people or so went back to take a look at the first video I ever did to see how painful I was as far as commentary goes. Even more painful than today. So that will be coming up in a few months. That'll be pretty cool. I'll speak more about that in the channel updates as they come out. But I just kind of I wanted to put that out there that yeah, we're getting Cube Ramblings. Well, Cube World has been around for a while. I'm actually on. This is technically episode 88 of Cube World, even though it's when I switched the name to Cube Ramblings and went from a Let's Play to a podcast. I started the numbers over again. So technically speaking, this is 88, but that's only for me and not for anyone else. so that will be something that'll be interesting. That'll be the two-year anniversary of my channel, and I guess I'm in a nostalgic mood. I was in a nostalgic mood last week, and I didn't get a chance to really dig into it. And this week I have a time. I have the time. I have the means. I have the tools to go back into full-on nostalgia mode here, and talk about some of the Kickstarters that I've talked about in the past, as well as some games that I've been looking at for long periods of time, and I'm just kind of waiting on to see what they're like. I figure now would be a good time to kind of go through the list and just talk about some of the things and see if, refresh some memories, refresh my memory in particularly, but refresh everyone's memory about things that I look at on the side that I don't necessarily talk about that much. I might mention it once in a while, but then never follow up on it. And I sort of want to follow up on it a little bit on some of the things. Like for instance, the very second video that I published on my channel was the first side quest video I ever did, and that was for Eterium, and that was the early alpha build of Eterium. That ended up changing drastically when I revisited it later when it had changed quite a bit, but that one in particular, that's an interesting story there. So I did the side quest video of it 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Did a follow-up to it just before it came out for release, and then played through the entire campaign of it on YouTube, and then played through the entire DLC, Act 2 DLC. So that was actually that was the very first thing I kickstarted. I'm looking at my list of Kickstarter things right here. That's the very first game I kickstarted for $25. Was Eterium, and I dug onto Rogue Earth, that's the developer, dug onto their website again to see if anything had changed. I remember there being a note a while back that the dev, since the game didn't sell very well. By the way, before I get too far into it, Eterium is a space combat sim game in the style of Wing Commander, very much in the style of Wing Commander. It takes a lot of hints from it, a lot of clues from it. Very nice game. It's got a decent story. It has a lot of missions. It's a lot like Star Crusader in that regard, where it has a lot of missions. Some, the quality of missions is kind of over across the board, but otherwise it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed my time in it. So there was a DLC that came out afterwards that was free. It was Act 2. And it was supposed to be an episodic DLC. So like it was Chapter 1 was the one that came out, and he was going to do a couple more chapters afterwards. But because the game didn't sell hardly at all that sort of got scrapped, and that's basically where it's been left at. I went on their website, and nothing has really changed since at least the last forum post was on September of 2014. So it's kind of sad to see that. I was hoping to see more, like even paid DLC. I would pay again for it. But that's the way of indies, right? You either have a hit or you don't, and you just take your licks and you try again. So that's the thing. That's the very first thing I ever kickstarted, Eterium. So the very second thing I ever kickstarted was called Collateral, and I'm still that has not been released yet. That was I kickstarted that. I'm looking at here. Estimated delivery June 2014. Yeah, that's passed a while back, but Collateral is an interesting one. It caught my attention because the game, the pitch for the game is basically Crazy Taxi meets the Fifth Element movie. So essentially, it's you're a taxi driver. You have this tricked out vehicle with all kinds of weapons and other things. It's a hover vehicle, like what you saw from the movie, the Fifth Element movie. So it's a very sci-fi feel to everything. You're in this sort of crazy city that they've built up. It's got, you know, factions in it and all kinds of missions that you run and various other interesting mechanics. I've had access to the alpha for a while, and I think it's in beta now. I've had access to that for quite some time. The last time I played it, many moons ago, it was still very early. Everything was working pretty well in it, but they didn't have like all the upgrade shop done yet, or any of that stuff. They didn't have too much of the world fleshed out yet. They had a few quests, but they were all pretty much the same quests, you know, fetch quests and whatnot. But it sounds like they've expanded quite a bit from that, a hell of a lot from that, from what I'm seeing from their last updates and various things. I don't know if they've specified when they're going to release it yet, but it's something that I've been keeping an eye on. So if there's a lot of things on Kickstarter that sort of I end up backing because they've got these concepts that they bring back forth from the dead almost, and try to do a little bit fresher take on it. And so the idea of just being a taxi driver, but being, you know, sort of giving it like a, I guess, what was that, Full Metal Rampage or whatever that game was, that you sort of strap machine guns onto your cars and drive around and shoot things and shoot other cars and run quests and things like that. It's sort of combining all those things and putting them in a blender and seeing what comes out of it. So that's why it sort of caught my attention very long ago, and I'm still keeping an eye on it from time to time, although I don't have the latest up-to-date information on it, other than, you know, what they've posted on Kickstarter here, you know, for backer updates, which is a lot of lore. They're doing a lot of lore stuff on there right now, trying to flesh out the world's lore. I really should, I have it. I should fire it up at some point, and maybe it's at a point now where I can do a video of it. I'm thinking a lot of these things probably are starting to get to points where I would do videos of them. I've been holding off on a lot of them because they're just, you can see the concepts at work, but they're not quite baked enough yet. And I'm just sort of waiting a little bit for some things to flesh out. There's a lot of those on this list where I've had access to the game for a while, to the early access or early alpha beta game, but haven't done any videos on it because, well, either time or just because I didn't feel like I could do it justice yet. I didn't feel like there was enough to the game yet for me to really see or show off the genius, if you will, behind it. And I think Collateral, of all the ones that I remember, Collateral was pretty far along. It just wasn't quite there yet. And I think it might be. I might have to dig into it again to see what has come out of it so far. The third one on my list here is PULSAR Lost Colony. I believe Jonesy actually did a video of it a while back, and it's a multiplayer starship operations simulator, I should say, because it's not just bridge, it's various things. It's if Bridge Commander, Star Trek Bridge Commander, had been redone to be less Star Trek and more just generic sci-fi, and had added, you know, multiplayer into it. That's the best way I can describe it. Essentially, you, your friends, your parties can go in to a ship. You purchase a ship. You get all the bells and whistles of it, and the ship's interior is completely fleshed out. So like, there's living quarters, there's a kitchenette I saw on one of them, various other things, engineering room, science area, science bays, and based upon the ship that you've got, determines how big the ship is and what various interiors you have and access to various things that you get. And then there's factions and all that stuff, with all their own lore and various other bits to it. And essentially it's you sit down, you know, there's a captain and there's various, it's, I don't know if you've ever heard of Artemis Ship Simulator. it reminds me a lot of that too, where it's just, except that one's kind of, you know, everybody's sitting in a room together. This one's more of the, let's just take that and make and inject the internet into it and make it so that you don't all have to be sitting in the same room together, but it's a virtual environment. So all, you know, your avatars are all virtualized. You can sit in the captain's chair. You've got access to, you know, you can run up to the helm and help the helmsman out and do various things like that. All the engineering stations there, you can have somebody down in engineering doing their thing. It's a really cool idea, really cool concept. They're very far along too. I haven't played it since the very first alpha that they released, and I had some problems actually connecting, and so I just sort of let it go, and it ended up falling off from my radar for a little bit. I really want to get back to it. I noticed I have it on Steam now, and I noticed that it just got updated. I think 0.49 is what they're up to now, and I can imagine the game is probably 100 times more fleshed out than what I initially saw. So I'm kind of interested to jump back into it. The only problem with games like that, and this is my problem in particular, is that I have a hard time doing multiplayer games because you know, Lonely Man has problem with multiplayer. News at 11. So that said, though, you can have bots take over all the various stations, which is cool. I'm fine with that. At that point, I'm playing basically Star Trek Bridge Simulator only against other humans in other ships. So I'm cool with that. That's fine. I just need to really sit down and just look at the game and learn the systems and I think probably that game's at a state right now where I could sit down and do videos of it and really show off what's there. I just have to circle back around on all these things and do it. But yeah, that's coming along as well. I don't know. There's no, like, if you go on, I don't even think you can pick it up on Steam. I think you have to have a Steam key that they gave you, because it's not on Steam Early Access, I don't think. I think it's because there's no like store page or anything like that. It's just literally just they have the very bare bones for anybody who kickstarted it to be able to add it to their Steam account and get access to the beta stream as it comes down and all the updates and all that stuff. So eventually that should pop up on Steam, because I believe it was greenlit. Well, yeah, if it's on Steam at all, then it was greenlit. So it was greenlit. It's just there's no store page built up yet or anything like that. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting some videos out of that. They deserve some more props because I think they've been doing it's, you know, a family team that's just been doing it and just knocking it out. A couple brothers, I believe, doing it. So then the next one on my list here, Cosmic Star Heroine. That is so this is from, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, let me see this is from Zeboid Games. You should, if you've ever played any like RPG games that were sort of old school pixel art stuff, you may have heard of Zeboid. They, let's see, what games do I have of them? I have Breath of Death 7, fairly decent game. I have the Cthulhu one. What was the name of that? I forget. Something Cthulhu. Cthulhu becomes a good guy for a little bit and then just get his bad guy powers back. I forget the name of it, the actual name of it. But they did that. They did Penny Arcade on the Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness. They did part 3 and part 4 of that, whereas another company did part 1 and 2. And they're also now doing. Was there anything else on there? I feel like I missed another big one in there, but that I don't own. But they're also doing this Cosmic Star Heroine, and they're doing it in the same vein as, same art style and vein as their other games. Really cool. It's like an old school RPG. It's top down 2D, story focused. One of the things I've liked about, I played a bunch of the Call of Cthulhu or whatever it was. I played a bunch of that, and one of the things I liked about it is even though it had all random encounters like old school RPGs do, in certain areas, after you've had like 20 or 30 random encounters, you don't get as many because you've sort of cleared the area out of monsters. So that is if you don't run away from them. So if you do go through to completion, then it does that. Also, in some of the other games that they've done, like the Penny Arcade games, I think they introduced a whole new mechanic. But gave it sort of an old school flair where it's like, you have the timing, only certain actions can happen at certain points, and you have to sort of wait for your characters to stamina bars to rebuild and all that stuff. And I think Cosmic Star Heroine has, from what I saw, I think they had a little bit of that too, which is fine. I'm cool with that. But I'm really interested in it. It's sci-fi, obviously. It's a, it's old school RPG, so it would have been stupid for me not to kickstart that in particular. Again, don't know when. I don't know if there's any dates have been announced for it. There is what is this, Cosmic Star Heroine Legend, which might have been their, oh yeah, that's April 1st. That's their April Fool's thing. I remember seeing that on April Fool's, where they said they're going to port Cosmic Star Heroine to the Game Boy, the old Game Boy, the black and white one. They have like black and white images here and everything else. It's pretty cool. As far as April Fool's jokes go, this one was pretty inventive. I give them that. I give them that one. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know when any dates for that. I haven't seen any dates for that yet. So that's there might be one, but I haven't gathered any of that information up. So that's another one that, and I don't have an alpha for that either. It's pretty sure I don't. Yeah, no, I did not get into the alpha for that particular one or the beta for that one. I don't think. I think it's just I'm just waiting for it to because that was a pretty expensive Kickstarter. I don't want to say how expensive, but it was a pretty expensive one, and I don't. I think I topped it off and I was like, I'm not going to go any further than this, even though if I went one step further, I would have gotten like alpha access or something like that. I think it's right now. It's just it is. I'll just see it when it comes out for real. But they're porting that one to so it's PC and Mac, but they're also porting that one to the Vita and PS4. So they've been working with Sony on that one too. So that one estimate delivery December 2014. Yeah. I don't know. I guess they just picked these estimated delivery dates at random because there's no way, there's no way that they're going to meet some of these things or would have met some of those things. So. That's a thing. The next one that I backed is called The Mandate. And this one, honestly, I have not seen a whole lot of updates from this one. Well, actually, I take it back. They update every month. I'm reading their last update right now. They update every month. They don't update quite as much as others do, which is nice. It's nice that they don't sort of spam you with stuff. But I haven't seen, like, I see a lot of concept art still, and I haven't seen really any. They do have some video footage occasionally, with like adventure modes and stuff, but nothing else. I can't say exactly how far along they are. I think. If I went on their website, they probably have a better idea there as to exactly how far along they are. But the mandate is, well, it's one of those long shots, right? It got a lot of publicity. So the Kickstarter brought in $701,000, which was well beyond what they needed to make this happen. And it was still back in the day when, Kickstarter was, a lot of people were still backing Kickstarter pretty regularly. A lot of high-profile backers. And honestly, the Mandate it's a sci-fi game. It's trying to be sort of a something for everyone kind of game almost. Basically, you are a starship captain. You're part of what's called the Mandate, which is a large group of they are essentially. You're essentially a stormtrooper. If I were to take a Star Wars reference, you're basically a stormtrooper kind of guy. You're the captain of one of those Star Destroyers, Imperial Star Destroyers, and your faction is the de facto leader of the known universe. And of course, you've got a series of events happens, and rebels start to be a nuisance and start to gain an upper hand to try to overthrow the Mandate. And your captain is falsely accused of a crime, and you're stripped of your rank and thrown in the brig. And after this galactic shifting event happens, where a bunch of people die and the rebels start to get an upper hand, the Mandate, to try to keep themselves afloat, goes and pulls you and a bunch of other people that were disgraced out of the brig and says, here's a ship, go make this happen. Go, I believe you have to rescue the queen or something like that, who's been kidnapped. And along the way, the idea behind this is you and your crew matter. Or your crew matters to you, I should say. So, in other words, every death is one that you would feel personally, because you spend a lot of time leveling up your crew and keeping them healthy and keeping them happy, and trying to meet their needs, as well as trying to do the things that a captain has to do, which is, hey, sometimes you got to send them off to die. The ships are going to be highly modeled to the point where during space combat, when the ship matters. So when your ship gets struck and the shields are down, it could punch a hole through the hull, which will cause internal damage, which you'll be able to see. And if there are any crew members near the area, they'll get blown out into space and die. And you have to cordon off areas, so it's sort of like FTL kind of in that sense, if you will. And then there's away missions that you'll go on, and it's all tactical combat. So you have to direct your people to take cover and fire off and all that stuff. And the same with the space battles and all these little modules that they have going on. It was a very, very ambitious game. It's almost as ambitious as, say, a Star Citizen would be, except they did manage to tune that back a little bit. the developers of Mandate, anyway, Perhelion Interactive, managed to tune it back a little bit, so it's not quite as ridiculous, outlandish as Star Citizen it proclaims it will be. But at the same time, it's pretty darn ambitious what they were going for. And so it does not surprise me at all that it's still going strong, even so long down the path that it is. But I haven't seen any. They had released a few like sort of demo things around it to give you a taste of the lore of the area, and there was one that I did download and I played a little bit where it was showing the damage modeling. They gave you a ship and you could fire asteroids at it, and it would show you like the physics, damage modeling, and all that stuff. Pretty cool. They were nice little tech demo things, but there hasn't been anything, as far as I know, with any of the final product yet, like any kind of alpha or anything like that. So another thing that I'm trying to keep from time to time. I'm poking my head in to see how it's going. The next one on my list here, Tiny Trek. This one I dug into like a month or two ago. It's come along quite well. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they might have even been very close to releasing. They're on Steam. They did get greenlit. Let's see, Steam update build 1.26. That was in March 25th. So they're still not quite finished yet. But they're quite a bit along in this one. This is another sci-fi game. This one it takes more of the Star Trek model of things. So you have a starship, and it's all procedurally generated, and it also procedurally generates, like you can model your starship however you want it, but it's episodic, and the episodes, so all the worlds are procedurally generated, and all the episodes themselves are procedurally generated, which is a really cool idea. Unfortunately, I haven't dug into it more than just 5 minutes or so. The last build I played on Steam, which was a while ago, I started up, and you have to use at the time you had to use the controller. I think they actually have mouse and keyboard now. At the time you had to use the controller, and there was no help. There was no tutorial. I don't know if there's a tutorial now or not. I think there probably will be soon, if not one now. So there was no tutorial, so I was having trouble trying to figure out how to do things. And the other problem I have is it does have very, very retro graphics, which I knew going into it. I don't have a pet peeve or anything about the very retro graphics like that. This is not even pixel art. This is like Atari. This is 2600 art. Is what this is basically. But the problem I had is that the style that they put over it is that you're sort of looking at a CRT screen that's refreshing with a bad refresh rate. And so all the screens have this flicker going through them, like to try to simulate a CRT. And it was really destroying my eyes. I mean, it was hurting me. It was hurting me a lot. So I kind of put it aside, and it's like, I'll come back to this once I feel a little bit better. Because I remember, like, I have this problem. I used to have this problem used to happen to me a lot more in the past. It doesn't happen quite as much now with the advent of LCD screens and whatnot. But when I had CRT screens, like, if I did not crank the refresh rate up to as high as it would go, like 75 hertz or so, I would get terrible eye strain after about a couple hours, like almost migraine headache-ish. I still from time to time get eye strain when I'm looking at a computer screen with my glasses on for long periods of time, but it's not as frequent as it was back in the day. So it's hopefully hopefully there's an option in that game to turn that off, because otherwise I'm not going to have a lot of luck playing the game. But it's something I'll have to revisit in the future. I still have it, in my Steam queue. It's still there. I just have to see how far along they've got. Apparently they had a recent build as of March 25th, where they're revamping the comm system a little bit. And it does look like, everything's so big on the screen, it does look like it would be like a touchscreen game. But it isn't. It's just a PC game through and through. And what they got, like trade dialogues now, demanding stuff, offering. So they're still working on the bips and bobs with it. But that's Tiny Trek. It obviously is trying to have a Star Trek vibe to it, and it does. You have the away missions and all that stuff. Hopefully, even what was there at the time I probably could have done a video on, but again, I was having trouble trying to figure out how to actually play the game. Hopefully they've got some tutorials and stuff in there now that I can kind of look at and get my brain wrapped around it. Well, that was Tiny Trek. Oh, this one I actually have. I can check this one off. There's a little checkbox in Kickstarter to say I received this. Approaching Infinity. I did a side quest video of Approaching Infinity ages ago. It's another sci-fi game. It's a roguelike, through and through roguelike, top-down 2D. It's, you know, just like any rogue game that you follows the old roguelike pattern. Every turn, like, the game pauses, and enemies and stuff only happen when you move. So whenever you move your ship, that's when everything moves, just like in normal roguelikes or rogue games, rogue-esque games. So that one did a side quest video on it. The full release of that went out actually ages ago. It's been out for a while. I would like to get back to that at some point. The difficulty I'm having is I have so many games on my list right now that I want to do that it's kind of one of those things I'll have to shoehorn somewhere in and just do it occasionally, because again, the problem I have with recording roguelikes is that you die. The whole point is that you die often, right? And I feel like I'm sort of doing a disservice sometimes when even with Ironcast, for instance, where, hey, okay, now I'm starting over again from the beginning. It's like, I haven't made it any further. Even when I did FTL and stuff like that, and Out There, which also Out There Omega Edition I have, that came out on Steam a while ago, a couple weeks ago, so I have to go through that as well. With all those games, the problem I have is that my videos end up being repetitive because you die a lot and you start over again a lot. And I'm trying to make sure that I always feel like I'm not making it interesting enough to watch, because I'm sucking so bad at it. So I don't know, those games, it feels like I could do a better job with them as live streams. So I may end up not doing YouTube videos of them, but actually doing live streams of them. We'll see. Right now I'm in the midst of Titan Souls, dying often in Titan Souls right now. So maybe after I clear Titan Souls out of the old queue, maybe I'll fall back on one of these roguelikes or something and do some of those for a little bit. I feel like they're better suited for a live stream because, you know, you kind of expect there to be a lot of downtime as people die often, and you're not getting edited stuff, you know what I mean? So we'll see. But Approaching Infinity, that is out. Actually, I believe there was another post by Bob Saunders, the developer of Approaching Infinity, where he's trying to actually go to I think he's got a GoFundMe campaign where he's trying to go show off Approaching Infinity at some conference, some trade show, some kind of show, and he's just looking for a little extra cash to actually make the trip out there for plane tickets and all that stuff. So I think everybody who was a Kickstarter backer, I think, got that little personal message. So that's a thing too. Speaking of sort of roguelike-esque things, and another sci-fi game here, Interstellaria. This game, if I'm not mistaken, they were very, very, very close to releasing. They might have actually released on Steam by now. That is a good question. I am not sure. I should really take a quick look here and see if Steam knows about them. But Interstellaria is another sci-fi game. It's a 2D side-scrolling sci-fi game where if you think of Starbound, right? But you take sort of the sandbox out of it, and instead you think of like, okay, I'm on a ship, I can, I have crew, we can manage different systems, I can buy systems for a ship, I can buy various things, and then you sprinkle on with that, encounters, like FTL-like encounters where you encounter enemies, and you can encounter multiple enemies, where you're shooting back and forth, just like you would in FTL. You can land on planets, and then it becomes a 2D side-scroller on planets, platformer, going around and investigating things and gathering resources and various other things. Not the traditional, not like Starbound resources where you're building like new armor and stuff, like trading resources and stuff like that, and exotic life forms and all that stuff. And you take all that and you give it another pixel art treatment, retro treatment, if you will, and just basically turn that into a game. That is in a nutshell Interstellaria. I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly certain that has been released. I'm trying to see. I've been trying to give myself time here to look through my list of stuff in Steam here, and I have not run across it yet. You would think I would run across it by now because everything is in alphabetical order, but I have all these categories, and so it's not like it's not jumping out at me at all. Maybe I forgot to do it on Steam. I don't know. Anyway, I believe, Cold Rice Games is the developer of it, and I don't know anything else, unfortunately. I wish I had looked at it before I start recording. You can get it. I have the version from the Humble Widget, I believe. Well, no, do I? No, I don't, because I actually kickstarted it. That's why I'm talking about it. I don't know. It's just, my brain's not working. But if that's not already out on Steam, it will be out on Steam soon, I believe, because it's been, because it's been a while. They were announcing that a while ago, so I think that it might still be in beta. So that's the thing. What else do we got here? How much time do we have? We have a little bit of time. So the next one on the list, Kingdom Come Deliverance. This is another one that really blew out the Kickstarter that it did. It's I have the alpha of it because I kickstarted it, and I have the alpha on Steam, and I've been seeing the alpha, the Kickstarter alpha get updated fairly regularly. I was going to do a video of it because what they actually have there is video quality worthy. The problem is it was still, I couldn't figure out how to do all the things that were in the demo that they had, or in the alpha that they had, because they had apparently some quests in there, but I couldn't figure out how to get the quest to start. And there was a little bit of crafting where you could craft a crossbow or just a bow. I don't remember which one it was. But I couldn't figure out how to do that either. So there was no like instructions. They just literally dropped you into a world. But Kingdom Come Deliverance is taking a break from the sci-fi stuff and going to the medieval stuff. It's a RPG set in the sort of medieval, times, and you are basically a farmhand that turns into a hero. it's the old rags to riches thing. Very much in the realm of like your Skyrims and things like that. Although they're taking more of a authentic-ish approach to it, so it's more of a sword play, horse riding. They're taking the horse riding and the sword play very seriously in it. So it has more of a what was that multiplayer game with the sword fighting that's relatively recent? More of those types of games where it's taking like the realistic, the sort of the realism with the sword play and all that stuff. And the towns that you encounter are like living, breathing towns. You know, people go about their business, they do things, they you know, tend to crops, and the economy is slightly, you know, altered by some events that you do. And it looks like it's going to be a fairly good, you know, open world playing thing. Unfortunately, the demo that I saw was very, very enclosed. There was invisible walls everywhere to keep you enclosed in that one area. But as far as I know, it's going to be an open world thing where you can just basically go off and do what you want, become a knight, essentially. So I was very excited about that. They, again, like a ton of time ahead of them still. They've got, they just released on April 2nd Tech Alpha 0.3. So they're a long ways away from having anything really ready for prime time. But that said, I mean, they've got lockpicking now, and they've got some voiceovers now. So they might be at a point now where if I can figure out how to do those things, then I'll be ready to do a video on it, so you can at least see what's in there so far. So that's a thing. That is a thing. Kingdom Come Deliverance by Warhorse Studios. Another thing to keep your eyes peeled for. Obviously, they were green-lit. The alpha is on Steam. I don't think you can pre-order anymore. I don't think they were taking any of that. I think it's just they're just working on it right now. I think it's just they got a lot from Kickstarter. They got what was it? Let me see if I can get the update here. They got over 1.106 million pounds, British pounds. So, and that was well beyond what they had asked for. I think they were only asking for like 500,000 or something like that, $500,000. So yeah, they blew that away. They blew that away by several orders of magnitude. So I think they're flush right now. They're just trying to get things done, which all the power to them. I say that's all the power to them. What else is another one here that I have? Okay, yeah, we got a little bit of time. Oh, StarCrawlers. Now, so I shifted to medieval, and now I shift back to sci-fi. StarCrawlers is, if you've ever played, what was that? Oh man, me and the names, man. Names do not come easily to me. Was it Dungeons of Dreadmore? Was it? Which was the most recent example of a 3D. What would you call it? Would you call it a 2.5D game, sort of? It's like a 2.5D game, like the old school RPGs where you would walk through these corridors one step at a time, and every time you step, things would move around you, and then you can move. You know, you can spin around 360, and as you spin around, you know, the game kind of spins like you really only go in the 4 cardinal directions, but you know, everything sort of spins around as you're doing it, and you command your party from that view. That's StarCrawlers, only in a sci-fi setting. The idea is that you are what they call a StarCrawler, which is you're basically a cleanup crew, if you will. not necessarily a mercenary, but more of a sort of a privateer-esque guy, where you don't own a ship or anything like that, but you go on to, you're part of the salvage crew, basically. You go on and salvage all kinds of fun goodies from wrecked ships and space stations and various other installations, and with the goal of finding your big score, right? So you're basically going around all these things, trying to get as much loot as you can. It's got RPG mechanics on it, so your crew, you've got various classes that each of your party can take on. You know, you got like your psyker and various other your basically, if you take the old school RPG stuff and say like your magic user, your warrior, your rogue and all that stuff, they basically have all those classes, only with the sci-fi twist to them. And you can level them all up. They've got their own level, their own trees, tech trees and all that stuff, and give them various inventory, and the idea is just go through all these different varied places and try to get as much loot as you can, and then before you just decide to bail on it and go to the next one. So it's got the I think it has permadeath in it, if I remember correctly, but it's been I played it actually a couple weeks ago, but it's not fresh in my brain. I was playing it to try to get a feel for it, to try to see if I could do a video on it, but I couldn't understand a few parts of it, and the build that I had was they still didn't have it they didn't have the progression down yet. So basically they just threw you into the game and said, here's a bunch of maps that you can play in any order you want, and oh, by the way, here's like 90 points to give, skill points to give to all your people, and which basically unlocks the entire tree for you, and you can basically see all the things. That's the last time I played it, and I wasn't quite getting the hang of it yet. I was playing through one of the maps, and it was sort of, I was running into problems. I couldn't figure out how to progress further in the map. There was like there's some puzzles in there a little bit, and one of the puzzles was there's basically the stair steps were broken and complete. You know, you couldn't go up to the next level, but you needed to get up to the next level, and I was trying to figure out how to get up there, and I couldn't figure it out, and I was getting a little bit frustrated. So I just kind of put it aside and said, okay, let's let this bake for a little bit longer. But yeah, StarCrawlers is another one that's on Steam. I don't know if they're doing pre-orders or not for that. I want to say they're not. No, I take it back. They are on early access. They are on Steam early access, because the key that I got was an early access key. So yes, they are on Steam early access. You can take a look at videos of them, of what the game is like, and so on and so forth, and just, you know, see if it's in your something in your realm of liking or not. It's one of those types of games that, like, you either like the old school, you know, take a step forward and have this sort of pseudo 3D stuff, or you really hate it. And I'm sort of I have sort of a love-hate relationship with it too, because I remember those games when that was the bee's knees. And now that I have true 3D, I'm like, I kind of want this over here a little bit more. So, we'll see. I want to really dig into it at soonish and see how it has changed since the last time I've taken a look at it. And then we've got let's see. So, Galactic Princess. This again is another game on the same theme as what I've been on about even before this. So, the things that I said about Interstellaria, it's kind of the same thing with Galactic Princess, where it's the 2D side-on view. You have a ship of crew to manage. The difference here is that you build the ship, you build all the modules onto the ship, as you get into battles, which are like FTL-like battles, parts of your ship can break off. There's some physics in the game, so it's entirely possible that a part of your ship will break off, and if it had an engine attached to it, then that will fly off in a different direction. And if you don't put the engines all facing the right way, you can end up with a ship that will only turn in circles and not anything else. And this one reminded me a lot more of sort of a Firefly-esque game, even though there is a Firefly MMO game in development, which I'm keeping an eye on. This sort of gave me more of a feel of like, this is sort of a Firefly game where you're in a ship that's kind of rickety. You've got crew that are, you've got to manage their expectations and their health and everything else. But then you're sort of a mercenary-esque person going around doing whatever the hell you want. You can get into the slave trade if you want to. You can have aliens that you're trading as slaves on the black market, and various upgrades for the ship and various other things to do. So that sort of, I saw all that and I was like, yeah, okay, I can see where you're going here, and I want some of that. Unfortunately, they went, they had an update. Their most recent update is they have a new website, and that came in on March 29th. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, the last update prior to that was a long time ago. They've been very, very, very quiet since the Kickstarter took shape, or since the Kickstarter succeeded. And so I'm hoping that, I wish I had more information on it, but they haven't really. There's like a facts section now. There's a new website. I can look at it really quick and see if there's anything on here. Like, yeah, it's like, here we go. What is this game? Galactic Princess is a space exploration game that takes place in a sandbox world. Create your pirate spaceship and manage your crew to destroy, board, and pillage your enemies. Basically, you're a space pirate, essentially. And you're possibly a Galactic Princess too. Sort of. Kind of. Space battles are not static. So yeah, unlike in FTL and out there, you have to plan out your approach to maneuvers yourself, all while managing your systems and crew. There's also active pause in that. So yeah, from what the videos I saw, it's like as you're in a battle, you can maneuver your ship around, but then you can also zoom into your ship and you'll see your crew at work just like you would in FTL. And as systems go haywire, you got to sort of direct them around, and you can sort of try to see what state you're in at various points in time. It's an interesting concept that I wanted to, I sort of wanted to see how it flushes out, and it looks like they might be getting some good leeway on it, or getting some good progress on it. Although I don't have anything in my hands to play, so I can't say for certain what exactly what state it's in or not in yet. But I have, as always, I have high hopes for all the things. Trying to give the indie devs all the benefits that I can, because I know that they have a rough job, because they people want stuff yesterday, but they can't have it because it's things take lots and lots of time to do, especially if you don't have a whole crew of developers to do it. It's just you and maybe one or two others. But I think that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.